down the hammer and pick up the pencil. You're about to listen to the Savvy Radio Show. Learn from real-life real estate investors, experience revealed with the Savvy Landlord as your host.
Hey, you tuned in to the Savvy Radio Show. Bang, bang. How you do? Welcome to the party, to the radio show podcast, Savvy Somebody. Stephen VanCauwenbergh, that's me. I'm your host of the most. Anyway, the most that you should ever do is due diligence. That is our subject today. Yeah. I think we overlook it on the cover of my book that I wrote 10 years or 12 years ago, back in 2011. Dang. 11 years ago, 2012, somewhere around there, 10 years ago. It says due diligence always pays off. And I think you need to really write this down, listen to this podcast. I constantly see young investors, old investors just make mistakes. And even someone that is worth several million, we're working on a deal right now, and he wasn't considering these exit strategies. And I think that's due diligence. What can you really do with the property? And again, I have 26 ways to exit a property. And so sometimes I need refreshers. And so you need refreshers. We all need refreshers. So hopefully this short podcast will motivate you to stick in, stay in, and do the due diligence. So this is just straight random thoughts that I had on a piece of paper. So let's dive in, and maybe one day we'll make a checklist of it, but let's just get all in it. This is just a conversation. So and then you can apply this to apartments. You can apply this to commercial, residential. You can omit, add to, and if you have something to add that I forgot, and I probably will, email me, text me, one-up me. Hey, this is the great time to do that. One idea right out the bat should knock you off your socks is get a prior appraisal. And, you can ask for the prior appraisal, and, it's okay. Depends on the transaction. But what I've noticed that if I do when I'm zoning on a property and I'm looking around the neighborhood or I'm looking around the street, usually within a mile, even I drive it, I will come across another investor and I'll ask them for an appraisal. It's always good. You should learn to get into appraisals, how inaccurate they are. Some are inaccurate. Some are good. Some are great. Some are terrible. They're opinionated. And so it's always good to review all appraisals if you can get your hands on some. I don't think we could ever have enough education about appraisals. So, but this may be one up you. You may have never thought of that before, but ask for it. You never know. Hey, do you have a recent appraisal, an old appraisal? And which is interesting, the last couple of properties that I bought, or last commercial property I bought, the owner had an appraisal, and I used his appraisal to sell to the other end buyer. So I passed on that appraisal to somebody else. It's a great tool. I believe it's overlooked. You need to look into it. Appraisals. Current leases, pretty obvious, but I'm just going to say it out loud. You need current leases and make sure they're bona fide. And on top of the current leases, as I was trying to help an investor today, what on a commercial level, what classification is that lease? Meaning, if they are a small entrepreneur, never been in business before, and they want to rent your storefront and they've never owned a restaurant before, and it's probably not going to go as well as you think, or they're going to be behind. So that would be a Class D tenant. And so an anchor tenant, a Class A, is, a name brand, a credit tenant. There's different terminologies. And again, if you're just in single family, these are just some commercial thoughts. But, when I'm looking at an asset, doing my due diligence, and, it's fully 100% occupied, the terminology, pump and go. Some people have fake leases. Some people have temporary tenants just to beef it up and move it out. So you need to consider that, the current leases, how hard do you need to look at them, how faithful they're going to be. Are they just an independent insurance agent versus a national brand? If you're renting an office space, if they're in cannabis, how long they've been in cannabis. Look up if they've been sued before. Locally in Oklahoma, we have this Oklahoma court documents on demand. You can check out a docket. Always do your due diligence on anyone you work with. Even if you're going to be in a partnership with somebody, look them up. Look up their wife, whatever it takes. Another one is gas bills. Get their gas bills, utility bills, electric bills, sewer bills, water bills, cable bill, other utilities, as many as you can think about. There's something wrong, and this has happened to me in an apartment building where my one apartment building has X amount of units, say 20, and it's on an older system, and it's on the water bill is only 150. When I bought a 10-unit apartment building 2 miles away, the city dinged me $20 per unit for just the trash, so that's $200, and then $25 per unit for water and sewer, and it came out to $450 a month. And I'm like, hey, I got this 20 unit that I'm only paying $150, and you're going to charge me $450. You need to make sure that is accurate. Same with gas, and also just a little heads up on you on the commercial level. And I guess Advanced Investor Alliance is on my mind. Commercial real estate's on my mind, so I apologize if you're a single family. But these are some things that you just need to understand as you're growing and moving and whatever you want to do. But here's some things another thing that popped in my head that could help you is when you move over to the commercial space or any kind of a bigger space than residential, minus the word residential, you're going to be paying a quadruple deposit. Oh, man. I'm talking about on one of my apartment units in Houston, talk about a $10,000, $7,000 deposit. And they don't know you from Adam, and they don't trust you. Welcome to the club. That's just the name of the game. If you're going to get a new water meter, there's a deposit, more than $250. There's electricity deposit. You know, we just did an acquisition. There's a several $1,000 deposit to turn electricity on. Get ready. Plan that out in advance in your due diligence. When you call and verify these utilities, you can ask them. And, you know, if you're carrying it over from another business, now keep in mind, you as a single person, as an entity, or as a corporation, you have an EIN number. How did you build those utilities? You think that since you have a great credit score, an 800 credit score, and you're going to go get a commercial property and get commercial utilities, they're still going to hammer you because your EIN number that you just created on that LLC has no history. I just helped you. That's what coaching does. That's what networking does. That's what help does. These are the little nuances. So many times I've seen young investors buy commercial property and they've spent every dollar and they can't even get the utilities on. No joke. I'm not joking. And don't be that sucker. You got to plan and prepare. That's why we're talking a little long here on due diligence. Get your stuff right. Do it right. Also, try to find a survey or analysis of the property, the boundary lines. It might be worth it for you. Encumbrance, just you need to file the whole title report. Like you got to get in title insurance. I recommend it. But this is one thing that I see a lot. People do not read the title report. And easements are in there. Utility easements are in there. Weird access to the property is in there. And I can go on weird, funky things, and also affected my business of these easements and already rights of passage that the previous owner negotiated, wheeled and dealed with some other neighbor or somebody else, and you are acquiring that information moving forward. You are responsible moving forward. You need to be privy to that. That's what due diligence is. Also, any kind of governmental inspections or stating or deficiencies or approvals, anything that you've heard of before, like they had to get a variance. Or something that happened to me over in the Plaza area. I bought an awesome warehouse, thought I was doing something special, and then realized it's in a historic area, and there's only certain things I can do to the property. I can't paint the property. I have to get everything approved. So as I was speaking here just a moment ago, governmental inspections or governmental sanctions or governmental things, you need to find out. That is due diligence. Go down to the courthouse or to the legal documents of licensing. And hey, can you tell me more about this property? This is your job as a real estate investor. Let me say that again. It is your job as a real estate investor, as a buyer beware. You're purchasing. You are required. you should be required in your own business policies and procedures to take care of these things. Now, here's some extra weird things that you need to be prepared of. Maintenance contracts. Oh, what's that? Well, one of these contracts could be a lawn maintenance contract, snow, elevator, pest contract, trash, security, other contracts. Another one that has come up several times, and this has truly happened to me, acquired an apartment building. There was like 20 washer and dryers in there. The previous seller signed a 5-year contract, got a $10,000 signing contract bonus, and then gladly passed it on to the new owners. And now we were locked in to this contract. Okay, so make sure you get that. You ask for that. You get that on the front end. Don't fool around. Ask them for it, and make them sign off that you have no obligation on anything outside of what's in this. And that's not a coverall, but at least you have something bona fide that you can show this vendor that may try to jam you up with this laundry contract. We were privy to this. We knew that, but it was such a smaller situation, but still we were locked in, and we're not messing around with the laundry people, but still it's just something that we need to know. That $10,000 could have went in our pocket. And that's an incentive for you as a new purchaser of a property with a laundry unit. You can sublease this out and blah, blah. I know seems like a long podcast here. We're moving on down the road. Police activity report for the last 12 months. Listen, you need to drive by the neighborhood at night, during the day, on the weekend, anytime you can. That's due diligence, okay? But to take it one step further is try to find any kind of police activity report, a fire report, any kind of first responder report, an EMSA report. You just need to know what is going on in this area. Maybe there's a choking, a pool incident, whatever, okay? Also, you need to be aware of, if you're buying a property outside of your normal zone, like say you're buying a property in Texas, which the property taxes are off the charts there, totally different in Oklahoma. And the reason is, in Texas, they don't have income tax, they have property tax. So obviously their property taxes are higher. Oklahoma, we have income tax and Oklahoma tax and property tax, so it's a little bit cheaper. Really not. They wrap it all together in Texas. But you need to understand to get the assessor's formula for taxation. What's that ratio? 1 point what is that, and how to figure that out. And going into your next transaction or your purchase, where does it look like? And then what does it look like after a year, after you stabilized and maybe get it reassessed? You need to be privy to that. Also, you need to get an EPA environmental survey. It's usually required by your bank if you're getting banked, but you might be a baller and you might be buying this commercial property all cash. And again, we're getting into commercial here. My bad. But the reality is usually you have to get an EPA report. You want to see that report. I ask for that report. You want to see that report. Also, if you're buying like a commercial property, and let's say that commercial property, I just advised someone today, they're all hot and excited about a $2 million property, and it was off the beaten path. And I was like, nope, don't buy it. The reason why, it's not visible. There is an expense to drive people to your property, commercial property. In this case that I talked to somebody today, it was over a office space. It's not visible. It's difficult to get people to this property. You're going to have a cost. What is that cost? So you want to ask, if you're buying a new apartment that's off the beaten path, or you want to buy something, a strip center, do you guys have a general advertising budget? And who do you budget with, or who do you spend it with? Is it billboards? Is it bench seats? Do you advertise in a local paper? Try to get that question. Usually, you never know. They may say yes or not. Find out what a deferred maintenance schedule would be, or create that in your own mind. What does it look like? Because, the fascias are broken, or it needs new guttering. Try to create a deferred maintenance schedule, and what's those costs, and get those bids, obviously. Insurance bill annualized, okay? Find out try to get as many insurance quotes as actual documents from the seller that has insurance. Even when I buy a residential, I love this when someone's overpaying for insurance, and at least I have an understanding moving in, so I know that I can cash flow even more because I can also reduce, say, usually a seller of a residence usually has it escrowed. Usually as an investor, portfolio buyer, commercial properties, you have to do your own escrows, but it's always good to get insurance. You have an idea of what coverage is on there and why that coverage is on there, how much GL that they have, general liability, replacement costs, ARV, blah, blah, blah. Any management fees that they've been paying for, like say they have a sponsor that did this event, see how much they're paying for that. Current management duties and responsibilities, say they're undermanaged, which is typical, like say it's a boutique property, and you're in out of state, you're going to have to add that cost in there. That's due diligence. How much is it going to cost to get someone to drive over to this property? I had a property in Florida, and I had to change out the locks. I just budgeted an extra $100 just to call a realtor, so I wouldn't worry about. Yes, I have a handyman on boots on the ground, but that dude was too busy, so I asked a realtor, and I paid him $100. Add that into your due diligence. Try to get the tax return. Some people are skittish and weird about tax returns. You're not. If they really want to sell the property at top dollar, they usually will give you the tax returns for that. Another due diligence that I would recommend is Google Earth and do a satellite view of the property, and you can kind of get a gist of the roof. Now, you can go back at the county assessor. This is a trick that I used to do too on a residential. I would look at the old photo, see the photo date, and see the roof. If the roof was like a blonde roof back in 2001, and then I would see the photos moving up like in 2010, it's a black roof. So somewhere now I zeroed it down, 2001 to 2010, that 9-year span. Now I have a general idea when their roof was replaced for insurance purposes. Now, when you use Google Earth, you can look at the HVAC. You could zoom in. You could see where the runoff is. You could see how, where some problem areas could be. That is due diligence. Also, you might want to get a one of those cameras. What is that thing called off the top of my head? The cameras that go in the sky. You know what I'm talking about? I'm tired. You hear me? But, a camera. God, I can't think of the dang thing. Got the hand, Anyway, get a camera that can go in the sky and you can look down on properties. That's the best way. You could use a company that will do it for you. Aerial photos. Secretary of State is my next one. Look up the LLC, who you're dealing with, follow that investor, what properties they own, what position. I'm trying to buy a property near my office for a long time. I looked up this dude. He's got 4 or 5 properties only in commercial, and he only wants to lease out this one property that I want to buy. Isn't that crazy? And it's been vacant for a year or two. And, I got to continue to chase this dude down, send him a letter. Hey, is it better to wait or you want to sell it right now? Because I'm ready to buy. Sometimes chasing this stuff down, seeing what their assets are, when did they purchase them, their timetable as an investor. Maybe they're new. Maybe they've been seasoned. If they've been seasoned for a long time, that might be an opportunity for them to want to get out. Keep following me because in about 10 years, I want to get out. And so that's an opportunity for you to get installment loan. I'm willing to sell on terms. Let's talk. Let's make it work. There's other investors like that. They don't want lump sums. They want, maybe some interest. That's my favorite word besides arbitrage. Anyway. So, follow the investor, get the story about them, who they are. Also, I do this for leasing agents. I also do this for realtors and brokers, how long they've been in the business. There's a property I got my eyes on right now. And what the cool thing is, that broker has a relationship with the seller. So, there's an understanding there. So when they present my offer, it's going to be more of a, hey, buddy, kind of situation instead of just a cold offer that might be lower than the anticipation. But that's due diligence. Yes, that is due diligence. That's just to scratch the surface. Hopefully this helps you. Hopefully this motivates you. When you're down in the weeds, look up and you might get another tip and get back down in there and get it done. Anyway, Hopefully this was beneficial to you. Hopefully this got you juicy. If there's something that you want to hear, a question or an idea, man, I would love to help you. Reach out to me, Facebook, or go to savvyinvestors.com. You can send me a message by voice, or you could text me, whatever. My number's up there, savvyinvestors.com. And whatever you do, after you do diligence, close that mother and buy assets and get monthly cash flow.
Thanks for listening to the Savvy Radio Show. Glide online and listen to our other motivating episodes at savvyradioshow.com. Connect on Twitter at LandlordBook and always be buying assets.